There was a time long ago when a great island stood in the vast ocean. This island was called Atlantis. It was a place of incredible beauty and advanced knowledge. Its cities were marvels of engineering, and its people understood the deep secrets of the universe. They could harness the power of crystals and communicate across great distances. Their leader was a man known as the Priest King. He was not a ruler who sought power or wealth. He was a guide, a wise teacher whose heart was connected to the very soul of his people and the planet itself. He loved his people deeply, more than anything else. But this wise king saw something that troubled him greatly. He looked into the hearts of the people of Atlantis, and he saw a shadow beginning to grow. It was a subtle darkness, a creeping selfishness that started to poison their thoughts. The people began to forget the importance of unity and compassion. They became more interested in personal gain and technological power for its own sake. The harmony that had made Atlantis so magnificent was starting to fade. The king knew this was a dangerous path, a spiritual sickness that could lead to their ultimate destruction. He would walk through the crystal gardens at night, under the light of the stars, and feel the growing imbalance. It was like a beautiful song slowly falling out of tune. The energy that flowed through the great crystals of the city felt different, heavier. He saw arguments where there was once understanding. He saw greed where there was once sharing. This darkness was not an outside enemy they could fight with weapons. It was a poison from within, a choice each person was making in their own heart. The Priest King knew that a civilization, no matter how advanced, cannot survive when its people lose their way. The king's heart ached for his people, and for the beautiful world they had built together. He knew that the very foundations of Atlantis were cracking, not from an earthquake, but from the weight of this inner darkness. He understood that the great island, the jewel of the ocean, was destined to fall. It was a future he could see as clearly as the sunrise, but he was not a king who would simply surrender to despair. His deep love for all of humanity, not just the people of Atlantis, gave him a profound sense of responsibility. He had to save the most precious thing they had, their wisdom. The Priest King knew he could not stop the fall of Atlantis. The tide of darkness was too strong, and the people had turned away from the light. But he could plant seeds for a new beginning, a future that would rise from the ashes of his beloved home. He decided to act not as a king trying to save his kingdom, but as a gardener trying to save the rarest of seeds before a long winter. He believed that the wisdom of Atlantis did not belong only to his people. It belonged to the world, to all of humanity for all time. This knowledge was too important to be lost forever beneath the waves. So he began to formulate a secret mission, a great plan born of love and foresight. He would not try to save the buildings or the machines. He would save the ideas, the spiritual truths, and the understanding of the universe they had cultivated for thousands of years. This was the true treasure of Atlantis. He knew that if this knowledge could be preserved, then one day a new civilization could be built upon its foundations. A civilization that might learn from the mistakes of the past and choose a path of balance and unity. It was a desperate hope, but it was the only one he had. The king called upon the wisest and most trustworthy souls in his kingdom. He looked for men and women whose hearts were still pure, who still understood the ancient truths. He chose scientists, artists, healers, and philosophers. These were not soldiers, but emissaries of peace and knowledge. He explained to them the coming catastrophe and the vital importance of their mission. He asked them to leave their homes, their families, and everything they had ever known. He asked them to embark on a journey to the far corners of the world, to carry the light of Atlantis into the darkness. Their task was noble but dangerous. They had to travel to distant lands, to primitive tribes and budding civilizations across the globe. He instructed them to share their knowledge, but to do so carefully. They were not to build a new Atlantis or rule over others. Instead, they were to act as humble teachers, gently guiding humanity forward. The Priest King gave them a final, solemn warning. The time was not yet right for the full truth to be revealed. The world was not ready. The wisdom had to be hidden, protected, until humanity was mature enough to understand it. With heavy hearts but a clear purpose, the chosen emissaries prepared for their journeys. The Priest King met with each group, giving them specific instructions for their destinations. Some were sent to the land that would become Egypt. Others traveled to the high mountains of the Americas, and still others to the river valleys of Asia. They carried with them no great machines or powerful weapons. Their cargo was far more valuable. They carried the schematics of the universe, the understanding of sacred geometry, the secrets of healing with sound and light, and the profound knowledge of human consciousness. These wise emissaries became the keepers of the flame. When they arrived in these new lands, they did not announce themselves as lords from a fallen paradise. They lived among the local people, learning their customs and sharing their own wisdom in subtle ways. They taught them how to track the stars and predict the seasons, leading to the creation of precise calendars. They showed them how to build magnificent structures aligned with celestial events, great stone monuments that would stand for millennia. They introduced concepts of mathematics and medicine, helping these early cultures to flourish and grow. The most important part of their mission was to hide the deepest secrets in plain sight. They knew that if they wrote the knowledge down in simple books, the books could be burned or lost. So they encoded the wisdom into symbols, myths, and sacred rituals. The golden ratio was hidden in the architecture of temples. The secrets of the human energy system were woven into religious stories. The knowledge of cosmic cycles was embedded in the layout of ancient cities. They created a complex web of clues, a trail of breadcrumbs for future generations to follow. The emissaries knew they would never see their home again. They lived out their lives in these foreign lands, becoming the mysterious wise ones or sky gods remembered in the legends of many cultures. They passed their secret knowledge down through carefully chosen mystery schools and secret societies. Each school held only one piece of the puzzle, one fragment of the grand mosaic of Atlantean wisdom. They did this to ensure that no single group could ever misuse the full power of the knowledge, a mistake that had led to the downfall of Atlantis itself. The wisdom was now scattered, waiting. Today, we live in a world filled with the echoes of this lost wisdom. We look at the Great Pyramids of Giza, at Stonehenge, or at the ancient cities of the Maya, and we wonder, how did they know so much? How did they build these incredible structures with such precision? The answers may lie in the secret mission of the Atlantean priest king. The knowledge was never truly lost. It was simply broken into pieces and scattered across the globe, like a divine puzzle waiting to be solved. Each ancient culture holds a different piece of this magnificent tapestry of truth. The fragments of this knowledge have been preserved for thousands of years. They exist in our oldest myths, our most sacred symbols, and our most profound spiritual traditions. We see glimpses of it in alchemy, in astrology, and in the sacred geometry that appears in art and nature all around us. The challenge for us today is to see the connections between them, to realize that the wisdom of the East and the science of the West, the spirituality of the past and the technology of the future might all be branches of the same ancient tree, a tree whose seed was planted by a loving king long ago. The priest king's plan was not just about preserving information, it was an act of incredible hope. It was a belief in the future of humanity. He knew that one day, a time of great awakening would come, a time when people would begin to look for deeper meaning and connection. In this future time, a new kind of leader would emerge. Not a king who rules with power, but a unifier who leads with wisdom and compassion. This person, or perhaps this collective consciousness, would be able to see the pattern that connects all the scattered pieces. The final chapter of this story has not yet been written. It is a story that we are all a part of. The search for this lost knowledge is a journey back to ourselves, a quest to rediscover the harmony that the priest king tried so desperately to save. Perhaps, someday soon, we will gather the scattered fragments from every culture and every tradition. We will piece them together and see the grand design at last. In that moment, the legacy of the Atlantean priest king will be fulfilled, and humanity will finally be ready to build the world of peace and enlightenment he always dreamed of.